Okay, good afternoon.
The tradition of storytelling in Africa, like many other traditions, is fading away very fast. And according to Alaki, it's about time measures are adopted to revive the fast-fading cultures.
People who are much older than I am and who know the traditions by the tip of their fingers, they should be encouraged to take time and sit. You know, in the old days, young girls and boys were taught by their paternal grandparents or aunties, and you have a grandmother telling a story. You don't have that anymore because the families are also dysfunctional, you know. But that does not mean that we cannot carry our culture forward. And that's why I'm thinking that the government should come in and even establish centers, you know, cultural preservation centers.
Traditionally, Africans have revered good stories and storytellers, as have most past and present people around the world who are rooted in oral culture and tradition. The oral arts of Africa are rich and varied, developing with the beginnings of the African culture, and they remain living traditions that continue to evolve and flourish.
Maybe I will step on the rock.
Do you remember the first visit to Nairobi, the capital city? Have you stayed with a relative in Nairobi, especially in a slum? Well, Wafubwa has a story to tell. Wafubwa is a man from a remote village in western Kenya who decided to make history in his village by being the second man to successfully set foot in the city.
Now you see, when the moment I arrived at the city center stage, ambassador, the new relatives, the KBSs that had just made it from Kangemi, when we arrived at that stage, they decided to let me unload my items before wishing me well. So they started bit by bit. We started with the maize. Kamatuma, the maize, chin. Kamarakwe, the beans, chin. Chimboka, the vegetables, chin. Kumukomera, the Luya man's herb, dawe, anan. It was here that I realized the city was very noisy. There were these young boys who were just banging buses and engaging themselves in a shouting competition, carrying placards encrypted with numbers. Wafubwa being a temporal genius, I knew that one Abonga points. But when they saw me, they immediately surged to me very fast and started grabbing everything that was grabbable in me. They almost grabbed in me, but I defended myself. So they grabbed the maize, the beans, the everything, without even saying any greeting.
He decides to visit his uncle Kunandecho, who lives in Kawangware. The culture shock that he experiences after meeting a tour guide, his girlfriend in the city, and the butcher leaves you riveted.
Went down on his knees and produced a bottle of champagne called OMG tomato sauce.
That song reminded me that I was supposed to look for a choir master for Wagidomo glorifying ministry. And so therefore, nikatoka kwa busha review. When I came out, I let my eyes scavenge around to see where the voice was emanating from. You see, in music, That voice is what they call diminuendo or pesqueno. But the moment I saw what I saw, my lovely small daughter was being held by a fat boy with no neck. He was rattled before because he took off at breakneck speed, and my eyes were not fast enough to locate his face. Otherwise, there would have been murder.
The skyrocketing food prices in the slums have forced his uncle to come up with weird ways of managing the situation. This forces him to seek solace in another slum. At Mukuru kwa Sinai slums, things become thick, and it's here that the plot unfolds.
Sinai is where I finally settled. You see, when you are born a man, when you are born a boy, you have no other option but to be a man. Before I found a place of my own, I slept at Karabat, garages, and dumping sites, just competing with archers.
Trying to put off the cigarettes, choosing Wakumbo's buttons that were soaked with petrol that was oozing.
This is a story themed on the challenges that the new constitution is undergoing and the quest to reap the benefits of the new constitution, which has continued to evade Kenyans.
With my many injuries, it was painful. It was here that I realized Zenjukuna Wanjukuna with this congregation, just beside me.
So, I took my motorcycle, the one which I tell ladies, Madam, the faster I go, the tighter you hold me.
And I took my three-wheel Ferrari bicycle, and we went.
We came to the hospital, looked at what was bottom. They were just the same with the fried pork in Mulumoka.
And because of all this, we had carried with us some African concoction, Mwarubaini, to cure our brother. And we also had a handwritten email that was supposed to be handed to our uncle Kunandecho. At this point in time, we saw Kunandecho, life.
First paragraph, full of Ukimileme, the greetings. The letter said that Nabangala was pregnant and she was expecting to have my child. Pain there. Now it was here that this Mzenjukuna Wanjukuna didn't even leave my pain to settle. He told me that Kabuchi is also pregnant and I'm responsible. How? I wondered how. I've not even had that chance. Just to mark the register of the Holy Bible. Then she's pregnant. It was here that I also practiced what I always used to do in Sinai. I grabbed Kabuchi by the neck and demanded that she tells us the truth, who the father is. Then the truth will set her free. Who is the father of this child? Who?
The senior
And as Chinua Achebe once said, it is only a story that can continue beyond the war and the warrior. It is the story that outlives the sound of war drums and the exploits of a brave fighter. It is the story that saves our offsprings from blundering like blind beggars into the spikes of a cactus fence. The story is our escort. Without it, we are blind, since stories aren't just entertainment, they are all we have to fight off illness and death. You don't have anything if you don't have the stories.
By singing to him a sad song full of hate speech.
Marete Salvin, GBS.